How good's this place? The Kingdom. Such a mint range. See if I can pop one down there to kick this video off. Loving golf equipment, always had an interest in it. Could see that it was changing. It led me to the next step. It got me the opportunity to come and work on the European Tour. But the one thing that drove me to my big opportunity from there. So how do you become a club fitter? I'm gonna bang in a bit of how I got here and what I think the key areas were and will be to get you, with a lot of hard work and a lot of travel and a lot of dedication, hopefully to a range as beautiful as this one. All right, so before I bang in a bunch of onions about my journey and how I got here and what you need to do, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I love you loads, but you gotta be subscribing to keep up with all the action. So how do you become a club fitter? What does it take? Where do you get your knowledge from? What's the journey look like to become good? And then what does it look like to become one of the elite fitters in the world? Is it even possible, and how do I do it? Well, look, I've said it before, I joke about it. I'm from the north of England. Like, that's a long ways away from Southern California. So the first things I did to get on this journey was literally go everywhere around the world. There isn't a global tour that I haven't worked on. And that is from the Sunshine Tour in South Africa through to the Korean Tour, down to the Aussies. I was in the Middle East Tour at one point, obviously the European Tour, before I even got onto the PGA Tour to have my shot with the best players in the world. And there was also an element where I was gonna go and live in Miami and do the whole Latin America deal. So to become the best at this, you have to be prepared to up sticks and travel. And when you're young enough to do it, there's nothing better than traveling. One of the main attractions for me when I got this job was that it was owned by Adidas Golf. So it's only right that I've returned to be with Adidas now, because it was such a big player in the golf space when I started this that I knew it was a secure avenue for me. But the nuts and bolts of what you need as a fitter, where do you get them from? Where do you understand that, for example, I'm stood here now working on Club Path. I'm looking at numbers with this beautiful P-DHY. Where do you know and where do you learn that these are what you absolutely need? Well, it comes from experience. You have to work with the best players in the world. But how do you get that shot? You start in a fitting center. It's the best of the best. You start working with golfers who are amateurs, who are standing here with things that we see with split elbows, adding loft. We look at all of that. That is where you have to cut your cloth. But you can't just go in there and be like, okay, I think I know a little bit about club fitting, this is gonna work out for me. That wouldn't be what I would suggest. I went down the avenue of doing my British PGA, Professional Golf Association qualification. I went down that route of learning to become a teaching professional, learning to run a golf business, but at the base level. But I also went one step up from there. As I mentioned, I'm from Liverpool, England, but I went to the Belfry, which is our headquarters in the UK for the PGA qualification. Then I got close to a mentor, which is thrown around a lot, but a guy called Simon Wordsworth, who now has his own very successful golf business, and he guided me through that PGA course with a lot of feedback from some great teachers around there at the time, but also I had an interest in clubs. Beyond that, I wanted to play. That was the absolute be-all and end-all of what I wanted to do with the game of golf. But I realized that in order to have that opportunity, you have to have something to fall back on. I personally went to college in the States for literally a semester. It wasn't right for me. I got the wrong place, came back to England, and then started my PGA qualification. I was entered into some big tournaments in the UK, but the bottom line was I sacrificed them in order to get a qualification, and that was going to be for me the British PGA. Loving golf equipment, always had an interest in it, loved the tradition of golf equipment, could see that it was changing. Launch monitors were just coming into the arena of what was right. But it was a lot of, when it came to club fitting, looking at the sole of the golf club, laying down tape on the bottom of the sole. You've seen it before, it's still used today, getting a lie board out and literally working it out. And I started out by, because of the Belfry, because I'd reached for the highest level I could get there and then, and that is key to you. Always try and go for the highest level you can get at that time. I wanted to be a trainee golf pro. I went to the best place in the UK. I moved straight away, 2 hours from where I was from to do that. Didn't really have any money, moved straight into that area, but asked a lot of questions. There is no question, and you can get in these comments below and write anything you like. that is not sharp enough. If you're thinking that question, then the chances are someone else is thinking it. That's another mantra that I use through this whole thing. So I'd ask a ton of questions about clubs, about what was right. Started fitting some friends, and then the very first fitter that came, the very first customer that I got, and Q, you're gonna have to Google this guy, but anyone in the UK will love this, David Platt, who played for England, was actually my very first fit that I ever did, in the rain, in a shed at the Belfry. So then, of course, a little bit of luck comes into it. The Belfry builds a £1 million driving range, which right now to you might not sound like much, especially as I'm stood here at this beautiful facility, this private facility. But £1 million back in the early 2000s was insane. TaylorMade came in, Callaway came in, Titleist and Ping. So there were 4 main manufacturers, and then there were rooms set up. I was fortunate enough to be put in the TaylorMade room. So my journey with TaylorMade Adidas started way back in the early 2000s, going in that room, but still working as a trainee golf pro. So there was no gain really, other than now you've gone from a small shed on a driving range to working with at least customers that were coming in and wanting to buy. And this was my #1 training area. And for you guys out there who want to become a fitter, this is what you need to do. Own the fitting cart at your golf club. If you want to do your professional golf association qualification, great, you can learn about it. But on the same note, build your knowledge of golf equipment. Back at that time, I knew more about golf shafts than I reckon I almost know now. I could have told you the torque of every golf shaft that's in Pandora's box there at the Kingdom. I could have told you the weight, the flex, and everything. But I was working with players that weren't the elite. Now I was working with amateurs. So a lot of that was about giving them the experience, getting them to chill, much like the guys do here at the Kingdom, but in a smaller scale. But the one thing that drove me to my big opportunity from there was hard work, taking extra shifts, and killing it when it came to sales. People were coming to this facility in the UK, this brand new place, to buy. They wanted the experience, they wanted to buy, and I was the man for that. Being able to sell then led me to the European Tour. So why is selling so important? It's not what we want to be about. When you get on tour, you just literally want people in the best clubs for you. 100%. I don't advocate that people go for a fitting and just try to sell. I hate that. But it led me to the next step. It got me the opportunity to come and work on the European Tour. And my partner in that fitting suite, he also got the opportunity to come here to Carlsbad. So both of us have ended up, through being in the best place we could be, now here in the Mecca of golf in San Diego. From there, going to the tour, fitting on the tour was very different. And honestly, this is where I became absolutely elite. And I know that's me saying that. I'm not trying to sound like over the top or arrogant, but the things I learned from being in Europe with a player that, it's fair to say, was just past the peak of his career, Swedish guy called Joachim Hegman. Again, I'll let you guys Google him. Q can insert a picture right there. First Swede to play in the Ryder Cup, absolute legend of a man. Came up to me and started to talk to me a lot, and you hear me harp on about this, about swing weights, about clubs, about what I need, about offsets and onsets. Around that time, there were 3 different sets that TaylorMade made, A, B, and C spec, all on tour. You guys wouldn't even have seen these clubs, and it was different offsets. Heggy would talk about that. He'd talk about head weights. I also worked with another really tall South African guy that was difficult to deal with because he needed lightweight heads. And then I learned all about overall weight, grips obviously, but how wide they were. But being in Europe, we would go from sunny Mediterranean conditions to windy Scottish conditions. So then I realized that, okay, I've got to bend woods, I've got to get the flight down. Then movable weight technology came in. Then fast forward from that, loft sleeve technology came in. Launch monitors developed. I'm stood here now with the full swing, and I can tell you exactly where my path is from what I'm working on right now. But back in that early 2000s, mid 2000s, the launch monitors were new stuff. So then all of a sudden I'm around more people. Well, guess what? The same playbook. You ask those same questions to the people that are developing, now engineers, launch monitors. Then enter Martin Keimer, a young guy, similar age to me at the time, who I got very close to and went through Martin's journey to win these huge tournaments. And that super quad that he won at Whistling Straits with was the driver that kind of changed my path again for getting recognized to go into other areas of the globe. So there's your next part. It's relationships. If you can form great relationships with people, be it owners of companies, owners of facilities, players, you're learning off the best players, but now you've gone from journeyman professionals who have been great to elite, and you're also going from different conditions in the desert through to Mediterranean, through to Scotland, which can be like horrendous even in July. Fast forward from there, business opportunities came about and I upped sticks again. The theme that I'm giving you, if you want to be a fitter, be prepared to move around. And I took myself off after great selling, great success on the tour, now with great players. I went down a level in player with the greatest of respect and went to the Asian tour. But I learned more in Asia about what those players wanted when it came to club fitting. Then Australia came into the mix. Obviously you're getting through it with Japan tour was getting big. The ladies are starting to be more prominent. So then you're learning more about fitting those types of players. And as people are going up in age, kids are starting to come into the scene and you're getting to work with some great juniors then, be it from friends or tour players who had kids, or be it from AJGA or great kids coming into the mix. But travel, questions, experience and commitment are all the method that gets you to be an amazing fitter. Your scenario and moving around and having some tools like the full swing that you can pack up and move is essential, because you need consistency. And that is why I stand here and harp on at you about the tour aim. I harp on at you about the full swing. I harp on at you about on-course sky caddy, because data now was massively filling our golfing decisions and I was embracing it, which is why I was going up and others were saying stagnant, because I was being able to move. It's much like this channel that you're watching. It only exists because I moved on what I was doing. At this point, I'd got on the PGA Tour. It was amazing. But I also realized through experience, now I was working with the elite of the elite, but it was the same conversations that I was having with other golfers across the world. But the transition was coming in that instead of just talking to 1 or 2 players a week, granted they're the best players in the world, I could then talk to you guys and create a channel that can hopefully educate like this one is. So then you bring yourself to this, and it needs little conversation. The wind is in the perfect direction. We're at sea level. The golf balls are fantastic. I have facilities that I can bend, manipulate, do anything I need through there, measure anything I want. It's all a journey that I've been on to get to this point. But being prepared to sacrifice for that journey and ask questions along the way is what made me become the fitter I am, which now pivot makes me become the social media person that I've created and the channel that we have, which hopefully is educating you guys. But it's stepping stones and it's a journey that you realize becomes your career and your journey. And I think the main takeaway and the little things, there's a lot in there, but if you can go to the best level that you have access to start, that is the #1 message. Questions are never going to hurt you. Obviously, if you can learn more by a certified qualification, that's never going to hurt you. And then pivot, be prepared to pivot. Trust me, going from the European tour to the Asian tour, maybe at the time would have seemed crazy to some, but that then eventually resulted in my move to the PGA Tour with the best players in the world, which then, trust me, when you've only got a few thousand people following you, which is your nan, your dog's account that you created, and yours, it's maybe not a wise move to go and dive straight into social media, but at the end of the day, this was the next pivot that I saw in my journey, and I've never been afraid of doing those things. If you've got any questions, as always, bang them below. Love all the comments, love the interaction. The channel is growing. We'll do videos on whatever you guys want, but I know out there's some people who want to become fitters. This is your place to be. I'm also going to put my website in there that has a subscription and a mailing list. You never know, there might be an onion certification that we'd love to get you guys on, where I can answer all your questions in person. Who knows? Dive in, subscribe everywhere you can, because there's more to come.